Rain fell in heavy sheets that evening, drumming on the rooftops like a relentless warning. The city streets glistened with puddles reflecting the neon signs above. In a small, cramped apartment on the top floor of a weathered building, Hiroshi sat on the edge of his worn-out futon, staring at a stack of unpaid bills. His hands trembled, not from cold, but from the weight of exhaustion that had settled deep into his bones over the past months. Hiroshi had always believed in persistence. He grew up hearing his grandmother whisper one word over and over whenever life tried to push him down: Ganbaru. Do your best even when it hurts, she had said. But tonight, in this dimly lit room smelling faintly of instant noodles and old paper, the word felt like a distant echo, almost mocking him. Outside, the world seemed alive and moving, yet Hiroshi felt frozen in place. He had spent years building a small startup, pouring his savings, energy, and even his friendships into it. But every effort seemed to be met with failure. Investors walked away. Clients vanished. Competitors thrived effortlessly. And now, sitting alone, he faced the truth he had been avoiding. Maybe it was time to quit. His phone buzzed on the wooden floor. A message from his sister. "Are you coming home for dinner?" He stared at it, feeling an emptiness in his chest. Home had always been where he felt safe, where love existed without conditions. But returning now would mean admitting defeat. That word, quit, tasted bitter on his tongue, like a poison he didn't want to swallow but couldn't spit out either. He rose slowly and moved to the window, watching the rain fall against the city lights. Memories washed over him, his grandmother teaching him how to ride a bicycle, scraping his knees and crying until she held him close, whispering Ganbaru, telling him that pain was not failure. His mother's laughter, his father's silent nod of approval, the small victories that had once felt monumental. Where had those moments gone? He couldn't remember feeling that alive anymore. Hiroshi's eyes drifted to his laptop on the desk, the startup's dashboard glaring at him with cold, harsh numbers. Red. Everything in red. Each metric was a reminder of dreams slipping away. The weight of responsibility pressed down harder than ever before. He had promised himself he would succeed, promised his team he would lead them through the storm, promised his grandmother, long gone now, that he wouldn't give up. And yet here he was, questioning everything. He sank back onto the futon, burying his face in his hands. The apartment felt smaller, the air heavier, and the silence deafening. The voices of doubt circled him relentlessly. You're not good enough. You're tired. You've failed too many times. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within, and for the first time, Hiroshi wondered if persistence was just a cruel joke. A sudden knock on the door startled him. He froze, heart racing. No one visited him here. Friends had drifted away when the excitement faded, and family lived too far to reach him in moments like this. Slowly, he got up and opened the door. Standing there was an old man, soaked from the rain, holding a small, tattered notebook. "I think this belongs to you," the man said, handing it over without another word, and then he turned and disappeared into the storm as quickly as he had come. Hiroshi stared at the notebook in disbelief. The cover was worn, corners frayed, and it carried a faint scent of cedar wood and ink. He opened it carefully, and his eyes widened. Inside were notes, scraps of wisdom, encouragement, and sketches, handwritten by his grandmother. Each page carried a story, a lesson, a memory of Ganbaru. One passage made him pause. "The moment you want to quit is the exact moment you must remember why you started. Pain is temporary. Honor yourself by moving forward." Tears blurred his vision as he traced the words with trembling fingers. For hours he read through her writings, each note a lifeline thrown across time, connecting him to the person who had believed in him when no one else did. He felt the weight of despair start to lift, replaced by a fragile spark, a whisper of hope. He sank to the floor, clutching the notebook to his chest. A part of him still wanted to give up, still wanted to run from the pressure, the failure, the exhaustion. But another part, a stubborn, quiet part he had almost forgotten, stirred within him. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind, soft yet unwavering, "Ganbaru. Don't give up." As the rain continued to fall, Hiroshi made a decision. He would not quit, not yet. Not when he could still fight, still try, still honor the memory of someone who had believed in him unconditionally. He looked at his reflection in the window. The man staring back was tired, battered, and worn, but he was not defeated. A storm raged outside, and storms raged inside him too. But maybe, just maybe, storms were meant to be faced, not avoided. The clock ticked past midnight. The apartment was silent except for the rhythm of rain and Hiroshi's slow, steady breathing. He opened his laptop and stared at the dashboard again. Red numbers glared at him, but this time, they did not frighten him. They challenged him. They dared him to try once more. A deep breath. Fingers on the keyboard. He began typing, not because he was sure he would succeed, but because giving up was no longer an option. And then, just as he leaned into his work, the power went out. The apartment plunged into darkness. The city beyond was obscured by sheets of rain, streetlights flickering like distant stars. Hiroshi sat frozen, heart pounding. In that moment, the struggle became physical. No electricity, no tools, just him and the quiet storm of doubt threatening to pull him under. He closed his eyes, gripping the notebook tightly. Ganbaru. He whispered it to himself, each syllable a rope pulling him back from the edge of surrender. The silence stretched. The storm outside seemed endless. And yet, within him, a single thought burned brighter than fear. Do not give up. Not now. Not ever. Then, a faint sound, a creak from the apartment above, footsteps on the wet stairs. Hiroshi opened his eyes, heart racing. He wasn't alone in the struggle, somehow. There was a presence. A moment suspended in time, a question hanging in the air. Would he rise from this darkness, or would despair finally claim him? And in that pause, Hiroshi realized something terrifying, yet exhilarating. The choice to quit, or to Ganbaru, was entirely his. The next morning, Hiroshi woke to a gray, heavy sky pressing down on the city. His apartment was damp from the storm, the power still out, and the streets outside glistening with puddles reflecting the dull light. The notebook lay open beside him, pages fluttering slightly in the draft from the cracked window. He felt both fragile and determined, like a soldier before battle, aware of the exhaustion but unwilling to surrender. The startup's office was waiting. The numbers, the deadlines, the team, all relied on him. As he stepped into the rain, water seeping through the soles of his shoes, every step felt heavier than the last. Every gust of wind, every passing car, reminded him of how small and vulnerable he was in a world that seemed indifferent. But he carried the notebook tucked under his arm, a talisman against despair. By the time he reached the office, the building was quiet. His team had arrived earlier, their faces tight with worry and exhaustion. Hiroshi's heart sank when he saw them, but he forced a smile, a mask of confidence he didn't feel. He could see it in their eyes. They looked to him for answers, for courage, for hope he wasn't sure he had left to give. "Morning," he said softly, voice rough from lack of sleep. The silence that followed was heavy, thick, almost suffocating. Then, finally, a timid voice spoke. "Hiroshi, do you think maybe we should just—" The words hung in the air, unspoken fears made audible. "Quit." The word again, like a sharp blade cutting through the fragile hope Hiroshi had nurtured through the stormy night. He swallowed hard and shook his head. "No," he said simply, firmly. "Not yet. We keep going. We Ganbaru." And yet, the truth was, he wasn't sure what that even meant anymore. The next few days became a blur of cold coffee, endless calls, and the grinding weight of deadlines. Every small failure felt magnified, every tiny setback a confirmation that maybe he had lost the battle before even beginning. Investors pulled out without explanation. The software they had worked on for months crashed during a live demo. And the media coverage, harsh, cruel, relentless, made the world seem like it was watching just to see him fail. One evening, after a particularly disastrous client pitch, Hiroshi found himself alone in the office, staring at the dark city skyline. His reflection in the glass was ghostly, eyes hollow from sleepless nights and worry. His fingers traced the edge of the notebook, worn from constant handling. A single note caught his eye. "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward in spite of it." He closed his eyes, and a wave of doubt crashed over him. How could he continue when every step felt like walking into a hurricane? When every effort seemed futile? And yet, he felt something stir inside, a stubborn ember refusing to die. His grandmother's voice echoed, "Ganbaru." The following days tested him in ways he had never imagined. His body ached from overwork, but his mind was the cruelest tormentor. Nights were the hardest. He would lie awake listening to the wind scrape against the building, wondering if all the effort, all the sacrifices, had been meaningless. The silence became oppressive, and in those long hours, he began to see visions, memories of failure and regret, moments where he had faltered, friends he had lost, words he had left unsaid. Yet even in this darkness, small victories emerged. A single client expressed trust. A software bug was fixed at the last moment. A teammate offered a solution that Hiroshi had overlooked. Each tiny success was a whisper, reminding him that progress was measured not in monumental leaps, but in the persistence to keep moving forward, even when hope seemed absurdly fragile. Then came the night that almost broke him. He was alone again, the office lights flickering under the strain of a failing generator. A massive server crash threatened to erase months of work. Panic clawed at his chest, threatening to suffocate him. His team had gone home exhausted, leaving him to face the disaster alone. Hiroshi sank to the floor, hands gripping his head, mind screaming. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe it's time to give up. But then he opened the notebook. His grandmother's handwriting seemed to glow in the dim light. The moment you want to quit is the moment you must fight the hardest. Pain is proof that you are alive. Honor yourself by moving forward. Something inside him shifted. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have certainty. He didn't even know if he would succeed. But he had resolve. He began working tirelessly, methodically, letting each action be a prayer, each keystroke a defiance against surrender. Hours passed. Sweat mixed with rain that had begun leaking from the broken roof above. His body screamed, but he did not stop. By dawn, the server was stable. The software was restored. Data salvaged. His team returned to find him slumped in exhaustion but triumphant. No words were spoken at first. The silence was thick, heavy with awe and disbelief. Then a teammate whispered, "Hiroshi, how did you?" He smiled weakly, holding the notebook to his chest. "I remembered why I started," he said. "And I remembered Ganbaru." That day, Hiroshi realized something crucial. Victory was not about avoiding failure, but about enduring it. About standing in the storm, feeling the wind tear at you, yet refusing to yield. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of despair had shaped him. They were not enemies to defeat, but teachers demanding persistence, courage, and heart. Yet, just as the weight began to lift, a new challenge emerged, a potential investor scandal threatening to undo all progress, rumors spreading online questioning the integrity of the company. The floor beneath Hiroshi felt as if it had opened again. His heart sank. For the first time since the stormy night, fear threatened to overwhelm him completely. He clutched the notebook, whispering under his breath, "Ganbaru. Ganbaru." And in that whispered repetition, Hiroshi understood the truth. The fight was far from over. The moment he wanted to quit was exactly the moment to dig deeper, to push harder, to confront fear with unwavering resolve. The choice lay before him, sharper than ever: succumb to despair, or rise even when the world seemed ready to crush him. The storm was not just outside, it was inside him now, and he had to face it alone. The days that followed were a blur of relentless effort, sleepless nights, and fragile victories. Hiroshi moved through them like a man walking on a tightrope stretched across a stormy canyon, every step precarious, every misstep threatening to send him tumbling into defeat. The scandal loomed over the startup like a dark cloud, each rumor and accusation echoing in his mind, testing his resolve. Yet with every obstacle, Hiroshi felt a strange clarity emerging. This was the crucible he had been forged for, the ultimate test of everything Ganbaru had taught him. He began each day early, reviewing the investor concerns, cross-checking accounts, and personally addressing every email, every complaint, every doubt. His team, once weary and fearful, now mirrored his determination. Slowly, incrementally, they rebuilt trust, not just with investors, but within themselves. Every phone call that ended with a hesitant agreement, every client who returned with cautious optimism, every small improvement in software performance became a victory that tasted like redemption. But the real challenge was inside Hiroshi. Fear, doubt, exhaustion, they were relentless. Nights were still the hardest. Alone in the office, staring at the dim glow of his laptop, he would sometimes feel himself slipping into that old despair. The memories of failure would whisper cruelly, "You're not enough. You've come too far to matter. Quit." Yet each time, he opened the notebook, tracing the words he had known since childhood. The moment you want to quit is the moment you must fight the hardest. Pain is proof that you are alive. Honor yourself by moving forward. Hiroshi began to understand the essence of Ganbaru. It was not simply doing your best when life was easy. It was doing your best when life tried to crush you, when your body screamed, when your mind begged you to surrender. It was a quiet, stubborn defiance against despair, a refusal to allow circumstances, fear, or doubt to dictate your path. One afternoon, after weeks of battling the scandal and rebuilding the company's credibility, Hiroshi found himself alone on the rooftop of the office building. The city stretched beneath him, sprawling and indifferent. He closed his eyes and let the wind whip around him, feeling exhaustion in every fiber of his being. And yet, for the first time in months, he felt peace. Not the peace of safety or certainty, but the peace of knowing he had not given up, no matter how close he had come. When he opened his eyes, the city no longer seemed overwhelming. It seemed alive, full of challenge and possibility, much like the storm that had battered him weeks ago. He thought of his grandmother, of her voice whispering Ganbaru through every hardship, every scraped knee, every small victory that had seemed meaningless at the time. He realized now that those lessons had not been about winning or losing, they had been about persistence, resilience, and courage in the face of life's relentless storms. The scandal eventually passed. The truth, painstakingly revealed through persistence and careful effort, cleared the company's name. Investors returned, impressed by the steadfastness of the team. Hiroshi's startup, once teetering on the edge of collapse, began to thrive again, not immediately, not effortlessly, but with a new foundation, stronger than before. Yet even more important than external success, Hiroshi felt an inner transformation. He had touched the depths of despair and emerged stronger, more aware of his own limits and the power of will. He had learned that giving up is easy, but enduring, pushing, persisting, and rising again, that is where real strength lies. One evening, as he closed the office for the day, he looked out at the skyline, the sunset painting the clouds in shades of crimson and gold. He took the notebook from his drawer and held it to his chest. Ganbaru, he whispered, a quiet promise to himself. Not a promise of effortless success, not a promise of invulnerability, but a promise to keep moving, to face life fully, no matter the cost. Later, he returned home to the small apartment where it all began. It was quiet. Rain tapped gently on the windows, and the familiar smell of cedar and ink lingered from the notebook. Hiroshi placed the notebook on the desk, opened it to a blank page, and began to write, not financial projections, not strategies, not plans for investors, but a letter. A letter to himself, to anyone who might read it one day, a letter about endurance, courage, and the raw, stubborn heart of persistence. The moment you want to quit is the moment to remember why you started. Pain is not defeat. Fear is not weakness. Life will try to crush you, but in that struggle, you find your true strength. Ganbaru is not about never falling. It is about rising again, every time, stronger and wiser than before. Hiroshi leaned back, exhausted, yet deeply fulfilled. The city outside was alive, chaotic, relentless, as life always is. But now, he felt ready to face it, not with certainty, but with courage, resilience, and the quiet, unwavering commitment to persist. He had remembered Ganbaru. He had refused to give up, and in doing so, he had discovered something more powerful than victory. He had discovered himself. The storm had passed, but Hiroshi understood that storms would always return. And he knew, without hesitation, that no matter how fierce, he would meet them, not with fear, not with despair, but with unwavering determination. Because now, he understood that the true measure of strength is in enduring, rising, and moving forward, even when every part of you wants to quit. And in that quiet, profound realization, Hiroshi smiled, feeling an unshakable peace. He had survived the storm. He had persisted. He had lived the truth of Ganbaru. Life would continue to challenge him, to push him to the edge, and he would rise again. Always. The city lights flickered as night settled, and Hiroshi, finally at rest, whispered to the wind one last time, Ganbaru.